It's strange how silence can echo louder than shouting. Hours later, I can still taste the moment everything shifted. The hallway lights buzzing overhead, Pedro's breath steady and warm against mine, both of us too still, too aware. The kiss shouldn't have happened. Not between two people who build entire walls out of competition and pride. And yet, when it did, it didn't feel wrong. It felt like everything that had been waiting to escape finally did. Now, I can't stop replaying it. That second where rivalry vanished, and something terrifyingly honest took its place. It's strange how silence can echo louder than shouting. Hours later, I can still taste the moment everything shifted. The hallway lights buzzing overhead, Pedro's breath steady and warm against mine, both of us too still, too aware. The kiss shouldn't have happened. Not between two people who build entire walls out of competition and pride. And yet, when it did, it didn't feel wrong. It felt like everything that had been waiting to escape finally did. Now, I can't stop replaying it. That second where rivalry vanished, and something terrifyingly honest took its place. He hadn't congratulated me. He never did. Just packed his things with that clipped precision of his, the same way he handled his logic, his handwriting, and apparently his grudges. But tonight felt heavier. Maybe it was a flicker in a hallway light, or the storm clouds pressing against the windows. But his silence wasn't just competitive. It was charged, as if there was something else beneath it neither of us wanted to name. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but sharp. "Enjoying your win, are you?" I smirked, pretending his tone didn't sting. Should I not? Pedro's eyes lifted, dark and tired. "You always need to win, don't you?" The question wasn't about grades, and we both knew it. I laughed it off. "You say that like you don't." He stood, the chair scraping back. "Difference is, I don't need the world to applaud me for it." It should have been a joke, another jab, something to roll off my back. But that night, it landed differently. Maybe because we'd been roommates for a year. Long enough for the air between us to hold both familiarity and frustration. Long enough to know the sound of his laughter, the way his hair fell into his eyes when he was focused. The problem was, I'd spent too much time noticing. He moved closer, leaning against the wall beside my desk. His scent, coffee, ink, and something sharp caught me off guard. "You know what your real problem is?" he said. I raised a brow. "You're about to tell me, aren't you?" He tilted his head, studying me the way he studied arguments, dissecting, deliberate. "You think you're untouchable. That winning means you don't have to feel anything about it." I swallowed the retort forming on my tongue. He wasn't wrong, because feeling meant losing control, and I'd spent years perfecting how not to. The hallway outside was empty, just the hum of the vending machine down the corridor. When I finally stood up, we were almost eye level. Pedro's jaw flexed. "You can't even admit when I'm right." "Because you never are," I said softly. "Until now." Something flickered across his face. Not anger this time, but something raw, unguarded. He laughed, but it came out shaky. "Careful. You almost sounded like you meant that." Maybe I did. The words slipped out before I could stop them, and for a second, neither of us breathed. The light above us flickered again, a quiet reminder that it was too late, that no one was coming down this hall. Pedro's hand brushed mine as he turned, just barely, but enough to send heat racing up my arm. It wasn't deliberate, not yet, but the space between us had stopped being safe. He exhaled, the sound uneven. "You don't even know what you're doing, do you?" I looked at him, really looked, and whispered, "Maybe I do." He froze, searching my face for the lie that wasn't there. The air between us was thinner now. Every breath shared, every heartbeat audible in the silence. I could have stepped back. He could have walked away. Neither of us did. Instead, Pedro reached up, maybe to prove a point, maybe to break one, and his fingers brushed the side of my jaw. The touch was light, hesitant, like he was waiting for me to flinch. I didn't, and when his thumb lingered, my pulse betrayed me. He sighed, a low sound caught between irritation and surrender. "You drive me insane." "Then stop letting me," I murmured. He laughed again, that sharp, breathless sound that was more frustration than humor. "I should hate you," he said quietly. "You make it too easy." I didn't answer. My voice had abandoned me somewhere between his words and the way his hand hadn't moved. The hallway seemed to shrink around us, sound fading until it was just us and the faint hum of the lights. Pedro's eyes softened, not with defeat, but realization. "I think," he whispered, "that's the problem." His forehead nearly touched mine. The air felt electric. Neither of us smiled, and neither of us spoke. We just waited for the part that would break everything we built on being enemies. I could taste the tension before it even happened. The quiet before collision. When his lips finally found mine, it wasn't careful. It wasn't even meant to happen. But it did. And for a moment that could have been a second or an hour, it felt too right to stop. Every argument, every late-night silence, every unspoken thing between us, it all crashed into that kiss. When he pulled back, his breath trembled against my cheek. Neither of us moved. The hallway light hummed softly, indifferent. The hallway was still echoing with what we'd done. My back was against the wall, breath unsteady, the faint taste of him still on my lips. Pedro stood a few steps away, like he didn't trust himself to come closer again. The air between us felt charged, alive, but also fragile, as if one wrong word could break everything. He finally spoke, voice rough. That shouldn't have happened, but his eyes said otherwise. I wanted to say something, to undo the silence pressing between us, but the words tangled in my throat. The fluorescent light hummed above us. Outside, someone laughed down the corridor. "Yeah," I muttered, though it felt like lying. "It shouldn't." Pedro exhaled sharply, rubbing the back of his neck. "We've got the symposium tomorrow. Let's just focus on that." I nodded, but all I could focus on was how his hand trembled slightly when he grabbed his bag. I wasn't sure if I wanted to forget or remember every detail of what just happened. That night in our dorm, silence filled every corner. His side of the room, perfectly neat as always. Mine, a mess of notes and half-open textbooks. Normally, we'd compete even in how late we stayed up, but tonight, the rivalry felt meaningless. Pedro was reading, pretending not to notice me glancing at him. His shirt was loose, collar slightly open, revealing a faint line of skin. It was ridiculous. We'd been roommates for a year, but now every inch of space between us felt electric. When our eyes met, the air snapped again. Neither of us looked away. I shut my laptop just to stop pretending I was working. "Pedro?" He didn't answer, just looked up, waiting. "Do you regret it?" I asked. The words came out too soft, too human. He stared at me for a moment, like he was deciding whether to lie. "No," he finally said, "but it scares me." I breathed out, something in my chest loosening and tightening all at once. "Me too." And then, for a long time, that was enough. Two people sitting in silence, sharing the same fear, the same pull neither wanted to name. The rain began outside, faint at first, then steady. He stood and moved to close the window. The soft sound of rain filled the room, blending with the slow rhythm of our breathing. When he turned back, his gaze softened. "We've always tried to win everything," he said. "But this doesn't feel like something you can win." I didn't know what to say. He crossed the room, close enough that I could smell his cologne, faint cedar and warmth. His hand brushed mine on the desk, brief but deliberate, the kind of touch that rewires everything you thought you knew. I should have pulled away. I didn't. He looked at me, and for once, there wasn't a challenge in his eyes, just a quiet truth. "If we do this," he said softly, "everything changes." I swallowed hard. Maybe it already has. For a second, the tension melted into something softer, something fragile. He nodded, stepping back, just enough to remind us that nothing would be said tonight. But the silence between us felt almost like a promise. The next morning, the sun filtered through the blinds. Pedro was gone early, off to the symposium. His side of the desk was empty, but his notebook was still open, one page half scribbled with something that wasn't his usual sharp handwriting. "We'll talk after. Don't run this time." I stared at the words for a long time, feeling that same pull again, equal parts fear and hope. And for the first time since the kiss, I smiled. Not because I knew what would happen next. But because for once, I wanted to find out. Fade out, quiet, thoughtful ending. A promise, not a conclusion.